All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Learn Biz, the podcast. I am Sandy B. Law, and I'm here joined with the lovely Lisa K. Crawford. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning, lovely Sandy B. How are you beautiful doing? How are you doing on this beautiful morning? Beautiful.
I,
I
I
can say
am.
this.
I mean, you got all the words all together. I'm like,
I
okay. Good
mean,
morning, beautiful and
good
beautiful
morning,
and beautiful.
beautiful and beautiful day. I mean, look, we're going to get this thing started right with
We
the right accolades and everything.
we're gonna get it going. It's a Friday. All right, guys. So we've been talking a lot about different entrepreneur news and even just talking about topics that impact entrepreneurs. And it's been very interesting to just kind of have the dialogue and share some tips and resources. So
Yes.
today is like no other. We're going to continue the conversation, and we're going to start it off with the one and only Coach Prime. Now, we just had a conversation on our last episode about Coach Prime and his little episode with Coach Eddie Robinson Jr. And since then, there's obviously been memes and storylines and all kinds of stuff. So I might pull up one of the memes that was done that I thought was hilarious.
Oh
But
my
Coach
God.
Prime, in true marketing fashion, I think that he is the epitome of someone who has taken advantage of his opportunities and tapped in all the way down to the Coach Prime, down to, he has an arrangement with Amazon Prime for this series that is dropping that I'm going to highlight right now, down to, he has all of these different projects that are just like rolling out all at the same time. And the beauty is, all of it is due to obviously him being a bigger than life personality, but also tapping into every marketing opportunity. If any of you know Coach Prime and his story, or Deion Sanders as he is known, early on in his career, he took advantage of being, the face of different things. You'll see him with the Pepsi can. Back in the day, he was doing commercials for all kinds of things, while he was playing not only baseball, but also football. So, what do you think about that, Lisa? Coach Prime is just tap, tap, tap in.
He is like entrepreneur extraordinaire. And so he's coaching football, but his background was in baseball.
Yeah. And then I
So
learned that he was playing baseball while he was playing college football, but he was playing, I think, professional baseball while
for
he
the
was in college.
Cincinnati Reds,
I was like,
for the hometown team where I come from, he played in Cincinnati. So Deion Sanders has just he's like a chameleon, you
yeah,
know. He knows how to move and change and go with the times and he always rises to the top. That's what I
yeah,
see about him. But I think of him as entrepreneur extraordinaire because of all the things you just said, how well he's able to just tap in
yeah,
and maximize whatever he does, earnings potential, no
yeah.
less.
And like him or not, he's like, don't let my confidence, don't let my confidence impact your insecurity or something like that. So I was just like,
Oh my God, I
all
love
right,
that.
coach. All right, coach.
Don't let my confidence impact your insecurity.
Something like that.
Man, that's a good one.
All right, so let's take a look at this article. Coach Prime is right on time, as this says. Deion Primetime Sanders scores docu-series coming to Amazon Prime Video. So I'm like, first of all, you take this name Prime, and now you want to align yourself with of all companies, Amazon. And Amazon, as we all know, is messing up all of our lives with, of course, these sales and things that they're doing with their Prime. And now they done tapped into the video streaming, and I'm just over with Amazon. But Coach Prime talks with his son Shador here, the quarterback of his team, Jackson State University. That's what's happening here in this picture. But while he is taking advantage of being the coach of Jackson State University, coaching his sons, and also having his daughter as a student and basketball player at Jackson State, he took advantage of all of this and said, hey, we're going to record footage. We're going to take advantage of, not only documenting history in terms of what he's doing with HBCUs. Oh, but we're not going to miss a moment. We're going to make some money from this too. So here, The Jackson State University football coach continues the trend with his Prime Video docuseries called, what is it called, Lisa? Coach Prime.
Coach Prime,
which
is swag.
Which is set to release in December worldwide. The 4-episode docuseries will take viewers inside his life on and off the field, including his journey with Jackson State University's program, which is reshaping the landscape for historically Black colleges and universities, or otherwise known as HBCUs, in Division I football. So the series will feature tons of the Tigers' practices, their games, their locker room footage, some guest celebrities, because you know Deion is tapped in, right? Team initiatives in the community, and the journey to landing the nation's top recruit. I don't know if you remember this story about him landing Travis Hunter, who was supposed to, I think that they were saying that he was supposed to either go to like Alabama, like one of the, top schools or whatnot for football, or I think he was supposed to go to either Florida State or something, and he chose Jackson State.
Because of Coach Prime.
Coach Prime. So the series will even include the team's historic run in 2021, where Sanders, or Coach Prime, led Jackson State University to 12 consecutive Southwestern Athletic Conference, or the SWAC, wins, and he took them to the Celebration Bowl. Okay, so they had a league title in the SWAC. Unfortunately, they weren't successful in their bowl game to take the the real title, but they definitely took the SWAC. So even if somebody asks who is SWAC, you can't say it ain't Coach Prime. So I just think this is great that Coach Prime is taking advantage of this. And I'm just going to play this little video clip with no sound because I don't want to have, no issues. But we're going to just play a little imagery from this video. So take a look. So this is like 5 days until the first game of the season. So this was, I guess this was in 2020 or 2021. And one of the things that I notice every time I see little clips from Coach Sanders is he's always giving these motivational speeches. He's always, telling these young men, like, you guys are young men and we need you to act accordingly. So forget all this, playing around, being, promiscuous and playing around with your grades and all this stuff. He's always on them about, you are young men and this is what we're framing you to be. So I love that. And then you'll notice the I believe that's on, their shirts. The I believe is all over the buildings. It's all over, the facilities. It's something that,
I love it.
And then making sure that they have their names on their jerseys and things like that. There was a whole bunch of stuff surrounding Coach Prime's, presence here at Jackson State University, because he wanted to make sure that not only was he tapping into the school, but the school, the students, the community was tapping into Jackson State. And so it's interesting to watch his progression. I have never really watched HBCU football until Coach Prime. I watched some college football, some NFL, but never watched any of this stuff until Coach Prime came along, because I think he just shined a light on something that many of us kind of take for granted. The beauty of the HBCU, the beauty of HBCU football and HBCU colleges and universities. It's unfortunate.
It's a beautiful concept, to see the teams come together, the HBCUs, and play the games and the big marching bands and the competitions. I mean, wow, the HBCUs can definitely light up a stadium with all that they do. It's a great experience. It really is a great cultural experience.
I mean, think about when a classic comes into town, people lose their mind. I know so many folks that travel miles, to get themselves to a classic. They got to get the outfits and get, the sorority and fraternity life and the fanfare of, being a FAMU or Bethune-Cookman or, whatever, or Jackson State. Awesome. So
that's a great one.
Next story on our list for today, we are going to talk about the lovely Keke Palmer. And if any of you have had any knowledge of Keke Palmer, you will know that she is a young lady that has been in the business since she was a child, and she's always been working. They even have a little nickname. Keke Palmer keeps a job. So they say Keke keeps a job Palmer, making big moves,
Keke.
right?
Go ahead on.
All right. Good morning, Rigo. Thank you so much for
Good
joining us. We
morning.
always appreciate your support each and every day. I hope
Absolutely.
I definitely appreciate your presence.
Thank
Um,
you.
I don't know what's happening with my screen right now. It seems like a little delay. Look at this. I
Are
don't
you
know what
able
it's
to
doing.
share?
Let me try. Let's see here. All
Okay.
right, here we go. I got the Kiki article up. So Kiki keeps a job. Palmer is making big moves. She launches her own digital television network. It's called Key TV. Love it. Um, Kiki is just beautiful inside and out. I think that she has demonstrated that you can be a child star, still maintain who you are, not be involved in a bunch of drama and issues in the entertainment industry, still maintain some sense of a childhood and go into adulthood with I would say a bit of grace. Like I don't feel
Hmm.
like Kiki has been one of those people that you're like, oh God, look what happened to her. I
No,
feel
I
I
don't
feel
feel
like
that
for the
way.
most part, she's been an example of someone that has survived the industry. So it says from being a signed artist to signing the checks, Kiki Palmer continues to be a trailblazer for the new generation of entertainment. And it says the award winning singer, actress announced the launch of her digital television network, Key TV, in an introductory video she posted for her social media channels on Friday, September 30th. Um, and basically, she narrates as she takes viewers on a journey through her career. And it's always interesting to listen to Kiki speak because I feel like she's done so many things and we know her
Mhm.
in so many contexts. So it says, "Hi, I'm Lauren Palmer, and this is Kiki Palmer, the brand I created 20 years ago, all the way back in Illinois with my mom." She says as she introduced her on screen double. "In those 20 years, I learned how to be a few things." And basically, what she's doing, and I'm going to play this clip without any sound, but basically, what she's doing is letting you know, look, I'm Kiki, but I'm really Lauren. But I've managed to maneuver this industry and allow you to see me in all of my shine, right? I've allowed you to see me in my dramatic roles like this right here. I've allowed you to see me in some, fun loving roles. I've allowed you to identify me as Kiki, even though I am Lauren, right? So I've been able to play those roles. And then now I'm taking all of the experiences that I've had and now creating content, right? I'm using
Wow.
music,
You,
everything.
she's reinventing herself once again, like branching out and creating another aspect of her brand. And
Yes.
that's great. And that's what entrepreneurs constantly do, by the way, at various phases of their lives. They
Yeah.
reinvent themselves.
Because
So this is great.
I think we can think back to Kiki being in so many different roles as a kid and then watching her grow up in the industry. But again, you've always pretty much known her as Kiki. You didn't know her as Lauren, who she, her true identity.
Never
Um,
did know her as I always knew her as Kiki. And was the movie, is it the spelling bee? Was that my movie?
Akila and Akila and the Bee, I think it was
Akila
called.
and the Bee. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay,
Um,
so that was my movie with Kiki. That's when I first met her and fell in love with her.
Look, I remember
Akila
Kiki
and the Bee, a 2006 film. Yes.
what is it, the Tyler Perry movies. I remember Kiki from some of these little animate not animated, what do they call Disney type shows. I remember her being a kid in a lot of different films and series,
Hmm.
or even just popping in on certain series. So
Yes.
she's
Proud of
she's
her.
she's really laid out a foundation for herself, and I think it's amazing to see how she just parlays this into a new experience.
Love it.
um
Go Kiki.
all right, so moving on down the train, Lisa, you have an article that you want to talk to us about. And
Yes. This is an article that I thought was very interesting. It's from thegrio.com. And so there's a young entrepreneur. Her name is Jessica Couch, and she talks about the racial disparities in the fashion fit industry.
okay.
And I thought that was very interesting because let me ask you this question, Sandy. How many times have you gone into a store and you tried on a pair of slacks or a dress and you thought, who designed this? Because it just doesn't fit in any of the right places. Has that ever happened to you?
Look, I always think to myself, did you all design pants, for example, with a board in mind? Because I'm like, you've put no stretch, there's no hip, there's no thigh, there's no meat anywhere. I'm like, how do you expect human beings to fit in these? Like, you clearly created this for a board. You didn't create it for a human being.
Exactly. And my best example of clothes that were not made for certain people. Do you remember Gloria Vanderbilt jeans?
I think I remember them, and that's again another example. They were made for a board. They weren't made for
Yeah.
human beings to fit into them.
You really needed to look like a model to wear those type of jeans. And there are certain clothes that are designed just for a certain look, and it doesn't include you or I necessarily, or women with hips or thighs or, things like that. So,
Facts,
so
facts.
to go to this article, I was kind of surprised when she summed it up saying that it's racism. I
Wow.
thought, you're kidding me. So, are you able to navigate that or am I?
Yep.
Okay. So if we go down, there's a part in this article that where she talks about how she's been able to help uh, manufacturers, clothing manufacturers, people who design in the industry. And you can imagine that most of them aren't people of color, but
Right.
she's been able to parlay this into some type of consulting business with these industries, people in the industry, to get them to do the right thing. Um, let's see. Can you go down just a little bit farther? Let's see. There's a part where she talks about the actual the statistics in terms of how many people return clothes because they don't. I think it's right there. There we go. She says, quote unquote, currently there's about $62 billion worth of returns. 70% of those are due to poor fit, Couch explained. There's also about $50 billion of dead inventory, with a large percentage of dead inventory that never even leaves the sales floor, the warehouse, anything due to poor fit. But it's an indication that there's not even brands or retailers or retailers can match a product to a person successfully.
Wow.
So that's where she fits in. There's a lot of money being lost on, I guess, not matching the fit to people's bodies out there.
Wow.
So I love how she possibly has picked up on some type of niche. Um, and then I think there's some part of this where she actually talks about, let me see, is that right there? Mm-mm-mm-mm. There's some part where she actually talks about how she thinks that the issue really is one that has arisen from racism. And I just thought that was interesting. Let's see if that quote is. So this is an interesting quote. She says, Couch identifies racism and classism as significant reasons why there is a disconnect between consumers of color and fashion houses. She considers fit tech to be a social justice issue. Can you imagine that
Yeah.
the way your clothes fit is a social justice issue? I love it. And then she goes on to say the genesis of fashion was catering to the elite. It wasn't for everybody to begin with, Couch said. The seamstresses, the tailors, the idea of having these different dresses were reserved for the aristocracy. And always that meant people who were not of color.
Okay.
So there you go. Once again, everything, everything in the world seems to be tied to racism, even the way we dress or the lack of access to clothes that fit properly. But the nice thing about it is that she's not just a young lady who's talking about the issue. she is becoming a resource, a consultant, an advisor to fit houses so that they can become socially conscious when it comes to clothing fit. All right, Miss Couch, way to go.
All right. Well, Miss Couch is definitely tapped into something important, but something else that comes to mind when I think about this article is that it's just another reminder that we have little to no impact in these industries. And it makes me wonder, is there ever going to be anything remotely near an even playing field? Because even if we're thinking down to clothing and the fit, that we're having these types of issues, and we still have a lot of lack in many industries, whether it be manufacturing or distribution or just the creation of the technology behind creating these things. It just reminds me again, we still have a long way to go, and
Long way.
I almost sometimes feel like, is it even possible that we're going to get to these points? Like, are we always going to be talking about the same things?
Yeah, I mean, it's something as mundane as fashion. You wouldn't think that that would be affected by racism.
Yeah. Racism is ingrained in systems and institutions. So no
Yes.
matter what we do, we're going to be hitting it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So keeping on the gravy train of conversation about entrepreneurship and keeping us informed, we talked a long time ago about Slutty Vegan and the massive impact that this young lady, Pinky Cole, has had in the, I guess I can still call this fast food industry, but bringing a vegan kick to it. She celebrates homecoming with a new Slutty Vegan in Harlem. So Slutty Vegan founder Pinky Cole lost her first restaurant in Harlem to a grease fire, but now she's coming back to the neighborhood with the 8th outpost of her vegan chain. And this, quite frankly, is her redemption story, she says. So this year's BET Hip Hop Awards were full of exciting highlights. And one of them was, Clark Atlanta University Marching Band hopping into the mix. But a surprise that happened during the show was the guest appearance by Slutty Vegan founder Pinky Cole, who was there to show the world that her talents go beyond crafting vegan burgers and running a booming business. Now, she's a beautiful young lady.
Yes.
She definitely has a stick in this industry in trying to create a restaurant that has an impact. And she made an appearance on the BET Awards, which was filmed in Atlanta, in the freestyle booth to deliver a message about Slutty Vegan. And she did a little rap, and I'm just like, oh, wow. So, she's taking advantage, much like we talked about Deion Sanders really tapping in, right? She's coming from being in the restaurant and food industry, but she's tapping into her other talents to really provide more exposure for her restaurant. And, I think those types of things make a world of difference. Just like when she was gifting the LLCs to the graduating class at Clark Atlanta University earlier. I mean, there's just so many different things. And you think about all of the branding and the marketing that goes around her restaurant and the color schemes and, the types of names that she uses. It's just amazing. So, she's taken on New York City and she's, and again, going way, way back, she started as a food truck in Atlanta in 2018. And she now has expanded this business to now fueling it as a $25 million investment that she, raised over the summer. So, she's really doing big things with Slutty Vegan. And I think she's a perfect example of how, I mean, look at this restaurant here. She's a perfect example of how you can mesh all of the different things that make you who you are and really take hold of an industry in your own way. Because
wait a second, what do I see there on that page? Is that some fried food?
I'm guessing it's something fried. I don't know if it's chicken or onion rings or something like.
Could be cauliflower.
It could be a lot of different things, but what I do know is she takes the essence of your typical fast food burger joint. And I mean, when I say they just do it up, and then the imagery, I mean, look at this.
That's beautiful.
Thriving in the garden of vegan, right? So she's taking advantage of all things vegan and really flipping a business that you wouldn't really imagine that someone could do this with this idea. We
Mm-hmm.
got Doug in the building. Good morning, Doug.
Good
Thank you for joining
morning, Doug.
us. So, I think that there's just so much to be said about taking an idea and fully engaging yourself, tapping in, fully taking advantage of all the fruits of that idea and making it your own, because she could have been just another fast food restaurant, just another food truck, but she came up with an idea and just ran with it. And now everything that she does, she tries to find a way to add some more creative flair to it. And I can't say enough about it.
I can't say enough about it either. And she seems to have the Midas touch. And what I like about it is that she's very young. She's a young entrepreneur, but she's already finding ways to give back at her level or the level she's on. So helping these young folks get their LLC set up so that they can start businesses and become entrepreneurs right out of college.
Right.
I think it's a beautiful thing because, that's where it's at. When you leave college, you're either going to work for someone else or you're going into business for yourself. And more, I think more people are going into business for themselves. So, God bless that young lady for doing all that she does.
Look, I think back to my days when I came out of college and I really wasn't sure what I specifically was going to do. And I just took a job and just worked my way until I started to really decide. But if someone had given me an LLC coming out of college, I think maybe I would have at least considered tapping into some of my creative side or tapping into some of the things that I was skilled to be able to do, throughout my career. I really could have done something with that. But,
one other thing, now vegan food can be a little bit pricey. I don't know what her prices are, but what I do love is that she's giving your typical fast food joints a run for their money, and hopefully she'll convert some folks who were like all hooked on McDonald's and stuff and convert them over to vegan through this method, because obviously they'll get more healthy eating vegan. So she's got win-wins all over the place with her business.
I mean, one thing I will say about vegan food is it can be touchy. What I've noticed with a lot of the processed vegan foods is, that sodium content and some of the other issues can be extremely high. So while you are not eating, for example, meat or certain other byproducts, many times, unfortunately, you were talking extra salt and extra other things. So I think that's the only problem that I tend to have with vegan items. But, I don't know what her nutritional, situation is. I do know that in terms of her burgers and stuff like that, if I'm not mistaken, the price point is something like, 15 bucks or something like that.
Yeah, that's like, those are some gourmet burger prices. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
but vegetables, people think vegetables and stuff are cheap. They're not. If you eat properly, if you eat healthy, really healthy, you're actually going to spend more money at the grocery store.
Yeah, you can. I think it's the offset of my health versus my health versus what I'm spending at the grocery store. Yeah, it's a very fine line. All right, guys. As we wrap up this morning's episode of Learn Biz the podcast, and again, guys, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. Please like this video, share this video. We're gonna close out talking a little bit about business. We always are ones to really tap into our ideas about what's going on in business. So Lisa, what we got going on here?
Yeah, so Sandy, we just came out of a pandemic not too long ago here.
Wait, we're out?
Are we? Wait, you're right. It's not even over. Darn, it's not even over yet. What am I talking about? I just took off my mask. That's the only thing that happened. I don't know if that was right, wrong, or indifferent, but yes, I've taken off the mask. And at any rate, Black-owned businesses seem to have taken the hardest hit coming out of the toughest part of the pandemic.
Facts.
So it's causing closures years after the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
Oof. So here we go. Just to read a little bit about this. During the height of the pandemic, many companies encountered major setbacks in their business endeavors. However, Black business owners reportedly experienced a higher impact on their earnings, causing them to undergo major financial loss, according to a recent study. This is according to the Chicago Business. Robert Farley, an economist, says that they provided stats that show that Black-owned businesses saw earnings decrease by 28% in 2020, as opposed to the 15% drop white-owned businesses encountered, with a 17% overall decline. So while we had a 28% decline, with white businesses, it was only 17, about half. Yeah, actually,
So white businesses was about 15%, and then overall, like all businesses, was like 17%. Dang.
is that what it is? Okay.
Oh, that's
Right.
crazy.
Right. So yeah, so this disproportionate business earning losses among Black business owners in the pandemic contributed to widening broader economic inequality, setting back one of the long-term goals of fostering minority business development. See,
Wow.
that was supposed to be one of the major things that came out of the pandemic, is
Yeah.
that everybody, including major white-owned corporations,
Yeah.
were supposed to become more socially conscious with regard to Black businesses, who generally are a lot of the frontline businesses and who suffer the most.
Wow. I mean, I just I have a lot of ideas about why this is, because one of the things that I've learned individually is that we don't we're not prepared. And I say this to say we have so many pieces that we don't identify with as like risky, right? It's kind of like, if I'm missing from my business, I'm screwed, right? Because there's not a backdrop to it, right? There's not a risk management process. There's not a strengths and weaknesses analysis. There's not a automation. There's not a business operating separate from me,
Right.
right?
I was going to say, especially when you are basically the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. And there's no sense of like having a team. And those are the things I think foundationally, when you have a business and you don't have a structure, like, when you're building a house, you have a foundation, and then you have the things that are above the foundation, and then you have the things that go in addition to that. Most of the time, for many of us, we start a business and we are foundation. That's it. And then whatever is being built upon is built upon us. There is nothing else that kind of keeps that structure going. And so a thing like a pandemic hits, we're not ready. Because when the pandemic hit, to me, it's like this. If I'm a restaurant, pandemic shouldn't affect me. Want to know why? Takeout. You know how many people were rolling up to restaurants, curbside pickup, takeout? But most of these restaurants weren't thinking about that. They're like, oh, well, I guess we got to close.
Well, it got better once people had some pandemic money to spend too.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it all kind of flowed together. And
Right.
I don't think all those restaurants hired all those employees back right away either. You
No,
know what I mean?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. But, I think I think that, there were so many things that many entrepreneurs could have done to make adjustment. One of them was adapting technology. A lot of us were still operating in ways that, I know a lot of people still that don't have credit card processing. What you mean? Like, there's how do you function in a business today and you don't process credit or debit cards at all? You're taking cash. What's that? Or
cash is a traceless business, my friend.
But how do you have a system where, people need to book and schedule with you and you're still asking people to send you a text message or email, or they have to call you? Bruh.
And there's so many free apps out there to to basically schedule appointments. These
Man,
apps will send like automatic reminders to your clients about their appointments,
no.
everything. There are some apps that'll even do a cancellation of an appointment for you and remove it from your calendar. It's amazing what these apps can do.
And Doug is making an important point. Considering most of our businesses are groom services, salons, and barbershops and restaurants, I can see how they were impacted. And you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
While I remember a lot of these folks were closed and all kinds of things were going on, there were some folks that were like, "Oh, we gonna be closed? Oh, okay, got you." There were some folks that were just doing services where it was like, "I'll come to your home."
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
come to you because here's the thing. If I have to be completely shut down and I can't be open for business, you almost can't stop me from going to someone's house. And I'm not saying that that's what people should have done, but I know a lot of folks that were like, "Oh, we're going to be shut down? Okay. I'm now going to have a new lane of services,
Yeah.
customized in-home, concierge type." And they were going, I knew barbers that were cutting hair outside of their houses.
That's true. I mean,
They were
some
like, "We can't be
people,
inside. We're going to be outside."
that's true. A lot of people took their businesses outside. We
Yep.
did a couple notarizations for clients outside on
Yes.
the back of a car, you know. So we've
at the
done what
front
we
at the front porch at the door.
at the front porch of the door. Yes. We've done what we had to do, to get through
Yeah.
this pandemic. But, Sandy, the most disappointing thing out of this entire article, not that people of color, black and brown, are suffering hardships or getting the worst brunt of it, because that's been the story of America.
Right.
The worst part of this is that these major corporations who supposedly see the real issues have dropped the ball and aren't necessarily helping to repair some of the historic wrongs with regard to black and brown businesses just being able to thrive and be out there and be competitive. Are they doing their parts? Are they
Yeah.
lending? Are they helping businesses? Are they offering grants? What's going on? It's really quiet on that scene right now.
I also blame the process, because let's think back to all of the PPP funding that went to people who basically defrauded the government, defrauded the business community, defrauded our society as a whole, right? We had an opportunity to recover. Many businesses could have, but they were giving away these loans to, fraudsters, and taking away from a pot that could have really gone much farther than it did. And sometimes I think about it, I'm like, true relief would have been to really just connect with businesses on an individual level. Banks in those communities should have been reaching out to those businesses, especially if businesses are reaching out to the bank saying, "I need something." There should have been an assessment at those levels. And unfortunately, because of the way monies were being distributed, it was uneven. And then you got the banks doing their funny business. You got all these other schemesters that are like, "Oh, I'll create bank statements for you. I'll create tax returns for you. I'll create this for you so that you can give a fraudulent application to the bank." And I'm like, for myself as a business owner that had all my paperwork in line, we had a hard time getting funding in that first run. We didn't get funding until the second run, because they were giving us all this hoops and ladders. Like, we applied and then there was no response. And I heard a lot of people getting, they would apply and get no response whatsoever. And mind you, we have our documentation. Like, our stuff was created by our accountant. We were doing our books. We had everything lined up, and we had a hard time getting. So I can only imagine the folks that didn't have any paperwork in order, that were trying to find a way to get funds. And that's a lot of us.
Exactly. So the haves made out and the have-nots got even less. So
and the schemers made out even better. The ones that didn't have Jack but really wanted Jack. So
and the ones supposedly who had all the corporations who said, "We're going to buy into all this corporate goodwill, and we're going to reach out and we're going to work with minority businesses and help them to get on the map," because we can see that, there are a lot of frontline worker businesses and they've suffered the most through this, and we're committed. And now these statistics show that there's been no help. Not really.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of, "Hey, we're giving away these grants, but look at the requirements." It's like, to me, if you're going to give away a grant, and let's say you're giving the grant away to restaurants, there are going to be a lot of restaurants that need your service, need that grant, that may not have certain things in line. why not give them that grant with the imposition that while they're taking advantage of the grant that they have to, get someone to do, their books or get a service or pay for, like, include in that, like, they're going to have to use some of their money to do that,
incremental
because
steps to get the next part, like do this, then you get this, see, you're right. So those are the things when people were concerned, they're always, the majority of like the conservative groups are always concerned about helping poor people too much. They don't want to give them too much because they don't want to make them lazy, Sandy. They don't want
no,
them to get lazy now.
I don't think that's why they're doing nonsense. I think why they do nonsense is they don't properly set up these systems. They set up ways where a lot of people take advantage of the systems, and then they try to blame the very people that they set up the system for. It's like, I look at the welfare system as an example. You set up a system. If you want people to not be reliant on the system, then the system has to be ingrained with milestones, right? I'm going to get into the system year one. Year one, my goal has to be to complete this. Year two, I have to be able to do this. Year three, I should have this accomplished. But there shouldn't be a year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 15. So same with these business things. It's like, if I want businesses to be successful and I don't want to give gifts where it's just they're going to be reliant or they're not going to do anything, then regulation, right? I'm going to give you a $10,000 grant. Within that grant, we're including provision that you must have a bookkeeping or payroll system.
That's
you
fine.
You must have a business plan completed within the first 6 months. You must have time constraints. Look at what Doug just said. A time limit. That's what all of these systems of I'm giving you, they never have something that imposes time, goals, objectives, requirements. The only thing they'll be doing, like, oh, we're going to have a requirement that you can't make a certain amount of income. Okay, well, if I can't make a certain amount of income, I'm never going to get off your system because I'm going to want to get your money for free, instead of saying, hey, we need you to be able to make a certain amount of income by this point in time.
Right.
So we're going to give you time to get the education, the training, the resources, the opportunities, whatever you need. And then by the time you hit this point, you have to have a job that makes this amount.
Most people want to work. Most people just want a livable wage. That's it. The people that I've run into over the years, practicing law, doing dependency work, working with children and foster families and trying to get them back home, I've seen where a lot of these parents, they try to trade in welfare for a job, but the jobs they're trading welfare in, they're paying less than, it'd be cheaper to sit at home and just receive welfare.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get ahead and they are incurring more expenses to get out there and work, as you know what that's like.
Yeah.
You need daycare, you have money, you got to get clothes, all the expenses to just get out there and work. And then you realize at the end of it all, now I'm actually making less. So we have to set up, like what you said, that the type of, where you reach the next level and it means something. You know what I mean? It motivates you to get to the next level. It's not supposed to detract you and say, what am I doing all this for?
Yeah. And I say the same thing for, these programs that are so restrictive. It's kind of like, if I have poor credit or no credit, if I have issues in structure, if I have lack of certain documentation, instead of denying somebody a grant or a program or a loan, why not impose within a program and say, I'm going to give you this loan, but you have to complete these things by this period of time in order to get all of the funds. So I'm going to give you a little something. Within that little something, if you didn't have this, you have to have this. Then you'll get the next phase. I would rather them do that, because it's like you keep saying no to people who want to take advantage of opportunities, who have great business ideas. Then what happens? You have these people that want to defraud the systems, and they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna get the money this way. And then all of these little schemy people come into these systems and say, hey, I'm going to teach you how to clear your business credit. I'm going to teach you how to build your business credit. I'm going to teach you how to get all these credit cards. No, they're going to teach you how to give someone else your money to do nothing for you. And then you're going to be worse off than you started. So
we definitely got to listen to financial advisors, get someone to help us manage our money. Because a lot of us think just because we know how to make money that we know how to manage it. And they are two different things.
Look, I struggle. I've been in business. What has this been now? 6, 7, almost 8 years. I struggle with this, trying to understand how to best allocate funds, how to understand how to prepare for the next phase, the next season, because many times we get paid, as lawyers, we get paid lump sums many times, right? And so it's kind of like, oh, now I got some money I can spend and do whatever I got to do. And then we're not thinking about, well, I might not get a lump sum next week or 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now.
Exactly.
So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. I get a little amped with these little things because, the government and systems cause me great grief.
Well, I can certainly understand. But before we go on and say, get ready to sign out. Oh, Doug has a comment. He says, keeping people stagnant also works in Democrats' favor too. Republicans don't want to help, and Democrats that want to help you remain dependent. There is no middle ground. So that would be what we need, is a middle ground. Because you know what? You notice that in this country politically that we operate at extremes a lot of times. It's either extreme left or extreme right. But that middle ground, we would bring more people together if we could find that happy medium.
Yeah.
Good comment, Doug. Very good comment.
The Democrats and the Republicans are the opposite side of the same coin. As far as I'm concerned, you're going to get the same extreme behaviors on both sides. While you may not like the Republicans or you may not like the Democrats, there's going to be equal personalities on both sides. You're going to have some good Republicans. You're going to have some bad Democrats. It's going to be a split. You're always going to have that. So,
right. And it's really the policies. Like the policies are too far left or too far right. But people know that we have these problems. So we got to find a happy medium.
So Rigo says there has to be a training program to have people get out of the welfare system to the work system and also learn a trade or skill and see where you can go from there. Here's where I will say with that. My Sean Denise, I love my Sean Denise's channel. She's always talking about some great things and sharing some real game. My Sean Denise talks a lot about, Section 8 housing and how you have these people on a waiting list sometimes 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
That's ridiculous.
On a waiting list to get on Section 8. I'm like, in 20 years, are you telling me that there's going to be no change to your life? Like you are relying on the opportunity to get on Section 8? That's number one. Number two, there are people that have been on Section 8 for decades, right? And it's just like, I understand the initial need, right, to get some support. Yeah. But how do you stay on a system for, like, there should be I'm going to be here and then I have to get out of here at a certain point and then let somebody else come in and then I have to get off and because the reason these waiting lists will be like 10 years long is because
people are not getting off the list.
I'm like, how the heck are you on a system for you're welcome, Doug. How are you on a system for years? It's kind of like saying I'm going to get grant money as a for-profit business from the same grant for 10 years. And the grant is for startup.
Right. What? Right. You can't even stay in public office without it ending at some point. So if you're getting public money, you would think that at some point it's going to be cut. But in this case, it's when the children, I guess, turn 18. So from birth to 18.
No, ma'am. That is a horrible example to give children. And I'm not knocking people that have a need. But come on, Lisa. 10 years? 15 years?
Well, Sandy, we're going to have to turn this into part 2 of this show because you know why? That's a whole nother debate. Because I actually can see why it's 10 years and 15 years, but I will save the reason why for our next show. There is a reason why it lasts so long.
It's called bureaucracy and false impressions at its best, as far as I'm concerned.
And can we add just one more thing to that so we can talk about it?
What are we gonna add?
How about making sure people make a real livable wage?
Oh, that's facts. If there were no other facts, I can't.
So we have to talk about that because things are just now turning the corner. people are just now beginning to make $10, $12, $15 an hour. But historically in this country, that's been unheard of. People know that we've been at what, $5, $7 for eons. And that's been way too low. But because the corporate lobbyists work on all the politicians have kept the people's wages low. So we have some reasons why.
All right. So to close us out, guys, to close us out, you already know where I gotta go. Because Lisa, what we've been talking about all week, you know I'm gonna go right here.
Lord,
and I can't,
swag.
I can't help myself, because you know what this reminds me of, Lisa? It reminds me of, we talk about this all the time, our entrepreneur mindset and our ability to see the strength in ourselves and to believe in ourselves and to be able to celebrate who we are without letting the outside noise interfere. I mean, that's at its core entrepreneur mindset all day. But Remix God Sway always gives us another one. And when Deion Sanders says, "Who is Swag?" I was like, right. You already know this is coming. So to close us out, guys, I can't help myself. I'm so sorry. I apologize in advance. But we're going to play this right quick.
We got to do it. Let's pump that mindset up. Entrepreneur mindset on a Friday, guys.
Who is Swag? If I ain't Swag. Who is Swag? If I ain't Swag. Who is Swag? Baby, who is Swag? Who is? Who?
I love it. I
can't. I just can't. I had to, guys. I'm so sorry this morning. This was an absolute necessity.
I'm gonna have to change it over though.
Let me tell you something. I'm gonna
change it over to who is black if I ain't black.
It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if that was a song, if something else came out. But look, let me tell you guys something. Get hyped up for yourself. One thing I appreciate about Coach Prime, love him, hate him, whatever, indifferent. I think he gives me a hypeness some days when I look at some of the content that he posts. He definitely loves the social media space. So who is Swag if I ain't Swag is like that's gonna be the anthem for the closeout of the year. Because
Sandy, we're gonna come up with our own. We will have to come up with our own. And if you guys can help us come up with our own little, because you need something for that mindset. So didn't that little thing pump you up?
Yes.
Like, we're not members of the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Girl, we barely know HBCU football, child. Like,
however, I feel just as pumped up if I have on football pads and helmets and stuff. I feel just as pumped up, which means it's the act of saying something positive like that. That's what matters. So we need our own for Learn Biz, Sandy. And let's put a competition out. Rigoberto,
we need
Doug,
some pumped up.
We need you guys to help us come up with our own who is Swag if we ain't Swag, but it has to be our own, okay? Help us out, and we'll say it at the end of every single show if we can get a good one.
Don't get us started. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed today. We will be back with another one on Tuesday, so stay tuned. Please like, subscribe, comment, and enjoy your weekend. Thank you, guys.